Hey guys, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Tier Talk. This episode is going to be coming from an excerpt of a live that we did the other day in which we touched on our mental health. Basically, can corrections make you feel numb to certain human emotions? It's a great dialogue from myself, Russ Hamilton, and Joe Pomponio. But before I give you that video, I just want to mention, don't forget to check out my sponsors. One is we have American Military University. If you guys are looking for that degree, seek higher education, please check out American Military University. They're very supportive of what we do here in corrections, also very supportive of what we do here on Tier Talk. And we also have my book, Inmate Manipulation Decoded. That book is out, doing well, making its sales. It is used for training all across the country. The link to that is in the description. And we also have my new book coming out. It will be out August 24th. It is available for pre-order right now at Blue 360 Media. If you pre-order it, it will come with an app, an ebook, and the soft cover book. And it's how to succeed in corrections, guys. There's so much tips, not just for myself, but other people in this profession. So if you guys get a chance, I definitely would get my hands on that book. It will help you in your career, whether you just started or whether you're trying to move up or whether you're looking to just have a journal where you can also add your thoughts and then pass the book over to someone that you feel has the greatest potential. But either way, guys, the book is available. Check it out. Link to that is in the description. It is being published by Blue 360 Media. So again, the link to their site is in the description. All right, guys, check out this video. What do you veterans do to cope with the horrible things seen, and how do you shut it off when you leave the facility? So again, I've worked in 5 prisons so far, probably maybe 6 soon. I don't know, but I worked with females, worked in 3 maximum security prisons, one being the highest level we have in our state. And then now I'm on the treatment side in partnership with, mental health professionals to work with sex offenders. And I know some people say, don't let this profession get to you. Why I agree with that, it's not a cold statement. I think what it really means is that everything about your own mental health and well-being has to be intentional effort from you to maintain your sanity, which means, one, you have to first admit that you're vulnerable. Believe it or not, being cynical or sarcastic, whatever it is, it doesn't work. There are things that you're gonna see that it's normal for you to have a human reaction to. The thing about this profession is the timing of that human reaction. I mean, what makes it hard in this profession is that we're not allowed to have that human reaction within the moment it's happening. That's the one thing that we really can't really do, because we have to be the ones that are in control of what's happening. But that doesn't mean we can't ever have it. It just means in the moment, we're the ones that are trusted to maintain some level of control, medical as well, whatever. I mean, any type of first responder. Doesn't mean that we don't react to it. It means that, there's a time when we know we can. And all because the moment has passed doesn't mean that you should forget about it. Usually when the situation occurs and it has passed, give yourself a moment to kind of talk through it. Maybe talk to people that know you outside the uniform or outside the profession, because in the end, the people around you, let's say, my fellow officers, sure, they understand what it's like to go what I'm going through. I get it. But they're going to try to motivate me to pick up the ball and keep running. And I need that. Don't get me wrong. I need that. The objective is I got to get Gangj, back on point so we can roll this thing out together. But the people in your home life, your personal people, they're addressing you, making sure that you're able to face the next day just in general. I mean, they're not talking to you on a professional level. They're talking to you on a very intimate and personal level. So having that support system matters. Now, another thing I want to mention is, and we discussed this at times, is there is a separation, I get it, between work and home from work. And it really deals with the emotions of, I'm not going to carry, if I'm having a bad home life, I'm not going to bring that in work. And if it's a bad work experience, I still I'm not 100% about the separation of that because I need to be able to vent to people I can trust. So I may go home, talk to my loved one and say, hey, babe, this is what I went through today. But more importantly, with my wife, I may not be as specific. I may protect her from some details, but I will be extremely specific and vulnerable with how I feel. That's where me being specific matters. I don't have to explain that I saw this at this extreme level, but I need to tell her, like, let me give you an example. I may not go home if I had an inmate suicide, because inmate suicides affect us. It does. I don't care what anybody says. It's human life. It's going to affect you. I may not tell her the manner of how it was carried out or what I saw when the body was on the floor. I'm not going to spell those extremes. All I have to do is tell my wife, hey, I witnessed an inmate suicide today. And this is how I specifically feel. Because for my wife, it's not so much about the incident, it's about how I feel in relationship to the incident. So that's where our energy is going to be. The last thing I want to do is take her away from that ability to help me by where she's so focused on the incident that she can't even address how I feel. And the other thing about this all too, is that if I don't allow for this communication to exist between me and my loved ones, it's going to change me in such a slow and subtle manner that I'm not going to realize it. My wife will. She will, because trust me, they know. Your loved ones know when you're making subtle changes and small changes, because you start to become defensive that you're not. You start to become a bit moody. And then eventually, all of a sudden, you're going to look back. You've completely changed. You're not who you used to be. And then when you go back to your wife, if they're still there, or you go back to your loved one, if they're still there, they can't help you because they don't know who you are anymore. You have completely 180'd, you have changed, and they weren't involved in the process to help you. So at the end of the day, you're asking them to help you with an outcome that they were never a part of. You know, it doesn't work that way. They can help you go through the process to get you back where you need to be, but you have to allow that level of vulnerability in how you express that, and be as specific as you can. Because I'm going to say this before I'll go to Russ and then Joe. And I love this saying, it's okay to be human in this profession. It truly is okay to be human and feel human. Don't let anybody ever tell you that you have to have this exterior. That's all a bunch of bullshit. Our people have to be mentally stable, and it doesn't come when you're pushing down everything, waiting to explode. It comes when you deal with the moment, express whatever has occurred, try to get something out so you don't explode. So again, that's my thoughts. I think there's a balance there, having that support system, embracing some level of vulnerability, be intentional with your own mental health. Doesn't hurt to have a therapist or someone you could talk to once in a while. But the one thing is, don't run away from the human element of what it is that we're going through. You know, if you have something you're facing, face it. It's funny. Last thing, guys, and Russ, maybe you could start off with this. A lot of us have the courage to run to a code and deal with inmates, one-on-one or whatever it is. But a lot of us don't have the courage to look inwards and see what's wrong with ourselves when we can. And I think that, to me, takes more courage to tell someone, hey, Russ, I'm not okay. I think, to me, that takes a tremendous amount of courage. Russ, what's your thoughts? And I'd love to get Joe's thoughts on this. About the
Okay. A warning, gonna get probably maybe a little bit graphic here. But it's not for any reason other than to, maybe bring a little bit of illumination to this. So, you go out there and you're going to be doing what you do as a correctional officer, as a correctional sergeant, whatever, and things are going to happen. I'll never forget, I had one time where we ran in, and the inmate, we had one inmate out on the yard, and our gunner shot him directly in the head with a 9mm round. And, as we picked his body up, all the brains came splattering out of him. Another time I walked into a housing unit, and it was just going off. And the gunner on my right, he looked up and, shot this kid right through the hip. And there was just, ass matter and blood all over everything. And, and I just go down the time, and this guy got stabbed, and I had a guy, get zippered right in front of me, with a razor all the way up and down. And I've been assaulted numerous times. And, it's just a constant series of yuck, 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 right? And I'm not telling you not to deal with that. But what I will tell you is that if you are dealing more effectively with the part of your life that really, truly counts, tomorrow I'm going to go out on a, nice hike around the lake here. I'm going to spend time with my wife. I'm going to spend time with my dog. I'm going to work on, getting some balance and stuff. Working on that aspect of your life will actually help fix those bad things that you get to see. If you spend all of your time trying to fix the bad things that you see, all you'll do is you'll reopen that scab over and over and over again. I'm not telling you not to vent. I'm not telling you to, stuff it all down and never talk about it. But what I am telling you is focus on the part of your life that you can control and the part of your life that you can use to make everything better. That other part, I'm not saying shut it down, because I'm like Anthony with respect to that. I don't believe that you have a home life and you have a prison life. That's ridiculous. You have to integrate those two. Those two things have to become one, and you have to be able to balance in some way. But at the same time, don't spend excessive time picking at those bad things you've seen. I mean, I've got a million of them. I've got a jillion of them. And some of them aren't even necessarily the bad things that you've seen. Some of it is just the constant stress from conflict, because you are in conflict all the time, 100% of the time, every minute that you're there. But there's ways to deal with that too. And so just focus on that, be balanced and don't get caught up in the bullshit, man. I had so many friends out there that, they were so into drinking, and I just got where I couldn't abide. I couldn't stand that, because all they're doing is they're self-medicating, and they come back around again, and it's just a vicious circle, and they never get out of that. And then they end up getting a DUI, something like that. And they are not in balance with their life. And it's not because they can't vent. It's that they're venting too much, but they're not focused on the part of their lives that they can control, the part of their lives where they can have fun, where they can have meaningful interaction, where they can spend time with their kids, where they can spend time with their wives, where they can spend time with their dogs, and balance everything out. If you can balance it out, you're going to be all right.
Yeah. And Russ, I love that, because the thing about that is that you can't constantly turn yourself off and on, especially when you're spending more time at work than you're doing at home. I mean, who are you really? That's got to get confusing, right? I mean, you're going to get the roles confused. So having said that, you got to find out, for me, I've been me throughout this profession. I know who I want to be. I know where I want to go. I'm pretty comfortable with who I am, and I could bring that with me into this profession. I don't fake the funk. I'm me, do my job, do what's expected, go home. And, for the most part, I'm me. But yes, there are some things from the profession that also trickle in, like to the home life, like a higher level of vigilance. But I have to also make sure it doesn't cross into paranoia. I think the funny thing is, guys, when you're working, just to give you an example of the balance before we get to Joe, is a high sense of vigilance is good when you work in the prison, but could be a downfall when you're at home and it becomes paranoia. So there's always going to be that balance, because that universal precaution that we carry with us into the prison. I mean, I don't know. I mean, when we're at home, do we have to kind of lighten that up? So I think you got to balance it between, we did a show on this the other day. Does your perspective change when you work in corrections? It does. I think even if you're intentional, it's still going to affect you to some level. I think that's very hard to not let it affect you. But having said that, like Russ said, I think it's so key. It's going to affect you, but you're in control in how you can balance that and just be mindful of it. Joe, what's your thoughts on that? And I have another question I'd like to ask. Got a few more coming in.
Yeah, I mean, going into this job, nobody ever tells you. But, from experience, I can tell you, expect change in the way you do your daily routines. The job is going to change you. It's going to change some of your habits. It's going to give you good habits. It's going to give you bad habits. And it used to irritate my wife, because, we'd be walking through Walmart and I'm looking at people with tattoos, and I'm looking at the security threat group angle. I'm scoping everybody out. And, it used to really irritate my wife. She's like, "You're not at work." I said, "I know, but, I'm still got to be aware." the job is going to change you in ways. It may be something as simple as not sitting with your back facing a door in a restaurant. Going back to your car 3 and 4 times before you go in the store because you want to make sure it's locked and you can't remember from the last 13 steps if you actually locked it or not. So you go back and hit your clicker 4 more times. It's just little things. As far as coping with the balance of work life and home life, man, you got to find a hobby, something that takes you away from both your family and your work life and gives you a route of decompression to allow you to be able to balance the two. The big thing is for those of y'all who are married, both males and females, don't shut your spouse out completely from what's happening at work. I'm not saying, give them all the gory details, but don't completely shut them out. Eric says, sounds like Joe's describing OCD rituals. I'm telling you, the penitentiary gave me OCD. If you think the penitentiary is not going to change you, I'm here to tell you you're a damn lie. But don't always shut your spouse out. You don't have to give them the gory details if you've had a bad day, but give them a detail. Hey, we had a suicide today, or we had a homicide today. We had a staff member get assaulted. Don't shut your spouse out, because that gives them a sense that you don't trust them enough to let them know what's going on in your world at work. I can tell you that will cost you dearly. For me, times 2 because of that. Because, in my brain, I'm trying to protect them from all that gory shit that happens at work. I don't want to discuss that with them. When I come home, I want to be home. I don't want to be thinking about prison anymore. But in reality, to them, they feel like you're shutting them out. When in my mind, I'm, trying to protect them. So be cognizant of that. And, like I said, you don't have to describe all the gory details to them, but, just give them some sort of insight to let them know you trust them enough to kind of decompress with them a little bit. And, it works out better in the long run. Finding balance in this profession between home life and family life, it's tough. It's very tough. I mean, I think my last year, 2021, was the first year that I ever had off for Thanksgiving and Christmas in 26 and a half years. So, not being there is tough, especially when you're there, when you're not there for your kids and you're at work while they're doing, baseball practice or, opening Christmas presents or whatever the case may be. Finding that balance is pretty important, but nobody can tell you how to find that balance. That's just something you kind of have to do for yourself. And you're muted.
Yeah, there's 2 guys saw it. There's 2.
No, you didn't see it. We brought it to your attention.
Wow. All right, guys, there's 2 good questions here. One is from Watching Trains and another one from JD. And I want